Okay, let's start. So our topic for today is about acute abdomen. I'm Dr. Baloloy. The source of my lecture is Sabiston 17th edition and Swartz 11th edition. Hindi ko kayo nakikita pero kung may question kayo, magsabi lang kayo, okay? Kasi
Okay po, Doc.
hindi ko makita yung gallery eh. Alright, sige. The term acute abdomen refers to signs and symptoms of abdominal pain and tenderness, a clinical presentation that often requires an emergency surgical therapy. So, nung first year kayo, di ba? Ano nga yung signs and symptoms? So, symptoms, yun yung nararamdaman ng patient. So, that's the abdominal pain. Yung sign, yun yung na-observe ng doctor. No? So, an acute abdomen is both the symptoms of abdominal pain and the sign of tenderness, no, on your physical examination. So, this clinical scenario requires a thorough and expeditious workup to determine the need for operative intervention and initiate appropriate therapy. So, many diseases, some of which are not surgical, can produce an acute abdominal pain and tenderness. So, therefore, it's very important to make a correct diagnosis so that the management selected, often a laparoscopy or laparotomy, is appropriate. So, these are the most common cause of acute abdomen consulted at the emergency room department. In this lecture, I will discuss the four most common: acute appendicitis, small bowel perforation, perforated peptic ulcer, and diverticular disease. So in this lecture, first we will classify what kind of abdominal pain, the physiology of abdominal pain, diagnosis, differential diagnosis, and the treatment options. So let's classify. Many diseases, some of which are not surgical, can produce acute abdominal pain and tenderness. Medical acute abdomen refers to existing medical diseases which can induce abdominal pain with no surgical or gynecological interventions. Pain may be alleviated upon controlling the existing medical problem. So non-surgical causes of acute abdomen can be divided into three categories: endocrine and metabolic causes, hematologic causes, and toxins and drugs. Okay. Surgical acute abdomen refers to existing abdominal pain caused by diseases that need surgical treatment. So for example, in this picture, definitely this is a surgical acute abdomen. This patient needs surgical intervention. You have to resect the bowel, no? Okay. So this patient presents with peritonitis already. These are the potential surgical nature of acute abdomen. No, the hemorrhagic in nature, infection, perforation, blockage, and ischemia. Okay, so memorize nyo to. So yung mga most common for hemorrhage, maybe due to gastrointestinal tract ulcerations. For infection, the most common is appendicitis or cholecystitis. Lahat ng may itis, no? Infection. So perforation, for most common is gastrointestinal ulcer or peptic ulcer diseases. Blockage, small bowel obstructions or large bowel obstruction, sigmoid volvulus, and intussusceptions. For ischemia, the most common is mesenteric thrombosis or embolism. For women, the ovarian torsions. So all of these presents with acute surgical abdomen. So for the physiology of abdominal pain, we classify the pain into three, the visceral and parietal component and the referred pains. Visceral pain is usually due to distension of hollow viscus, which leads to the stretching of the nerve fibers innervating the wall of the bowels or any organs. So visceral pain tends to be vague and poorly localized to the epigastrium, periumbilical area, hypogastrium, and depending on its origin from the primitive foregut, midgut, or hindgut. So tatandaan nyo, visceral pain is vague abdominal pain. Usually the patient cannot pinpoint ang exact location sa abdomen kung saan yung masakit. So pag nakakita kayong patient na gano'n, Doc, masakit dito, ganyan-ganyan. Hindi niya ma-pinpoint, ibig sabihin the patient's having a visceral pain. Compared to parietal pain, it corresponds to the segmental nerve root innervating by doing a careful history and physical examination. So these are the example of referred pain. A right shoulder referred pain may be due to liver, gallbladder, or right hemidiaphragm problems. Left shoulder referred pain may be due to heart, cardiac, tail of pancreas pain, or left hemidiaphragm problems. Scrotal and testicle referred pain may be due to ureteral pain, like ureteral pathology like ureteral stone or urolithiasis. Okay. So as I've said kanina, it's very important to get the correct diagnosis, Kasi acute abdomen can be treated surgically or medically, So to have a good diagnosis, you have to do a history, physical examination, request for laboratory and imaging studies, and you could also do a diagnostic laparoscopy. Detailed history and a detailed and organized history is essential in making accurate differential diagnosis and subsequent treatment regimen. With the current technological advances in imaging, cannot and will never replace the need for skilled clinician bedside examinations. So history must not focus on the investigation of the pain complaint, but also the past problem and associated symptoms as well. So questions should be open-ended wherever possible and structured to disclose the onset, character, location, duration, and radiation of and chronology of the pain experience. Naalala nyo, nung first year kayo, physical diagnosis and getting history, always open-ended question. And when and getting the history of pain, di ba? Naalala nyo yung PQRST of pain? First year?
Yes po, Doc.
And so that's very important, So sabi ko nga, type of onset, a sudden onset of pain may be due to a ruptured viscus or mesenteric thrombosis. A gradual onset of pain may be due to infection or infectious in nature, like the appendicitis and cholecystitis. For the quality of pain, Dull pain may be due to appendicitis. A sharp may be due to a renal or obstruction of the gut. So most common sharp type quality of pain is due to ureterolithiasis. A stabbing or piercing pain due to acute pancreatitis. And pleuritic pain are intensified by breathing and tearing pain. Example is dissecting aneurysm. For the frequency and duration, usually patients with short duration, which does not recur, is usually insignificant. The longer the duration, the more likely it is a surgical condition. So factors which intensifies or relieve pain is also very important in the history. In relations to meal, for example, if the abdominal pain occurs before or after meal, you could pinpoint if the patient's having a gastric peptic ulcer disease or duodenal peptic ulcer disease. For the posture, one good example is acute pancreatitis. Patients with acute pancreatitis usually on sitting upright, always in upright position that leans forward kasi mas nare-relieve yung pain, no? So if you see patient like that, one of your differential diagnosis always put in your mind is pancreatitis, acute pancreatitis. Okay, so for the motion, any movement causes intense pain. Usually this is patients with inflammatory pathology like appendicitis and cholecystitis. No, pag may mga inflamed organs, usually the pain intensifies during movement. Pain associated with nausea and vomiting. This could be a reflex, occurs in many conditions, no? Nausea and vomiting usually occurs during the early phase of appendicitis, and repeated vomiting in large amount may be due to obstruction in the gastrointestinal tract. Sometimes, if it is in the lower GIT patients, vomitus is bile stain. For diarrhea with abdominal pain with diarrhea may be due to acute gastroenteritis or food poisoning. And for patients with abdominal pain with constipation or obstipation, always think of small bowel obstructions. So a progressive constipation or progressive bowel obstruction, always think of a progressive disease, no, like carcinoma of the small bowel or large bowel. After doing a physical examination, next is you have to do a thorough, after the history taking, you have to do a thorough physical examination. An organized and thorough physical examination is very critical in the development of accurate differential diagnosis. So, despite the newer technologies, including high-resolution CT scan, ultrasound, MRIs, physical examinations remains a key part of patient's evaluation. So, physical examination should always begin with general inspection of the patient, followed by inspection of the abdomen itself. So, during your physical diagnosis, di ba? How do you do your physical examination of the abdomen? You start with inspection, then you do your auscultation, percussion, and then last is palpation. So palpation is the major step in abdominal examination. It is the most critical step in abdominal examination. It gives you more information than any other component of the examination, no? In addition to revealing the severity and the location of abdominal pain, palpation can further confirm the presence of peritonitis of if there is a organomegaly or abdominal mass lesions. Palpation should always begin gently and away from the reported area of pain. So for example, if you are having a patient's you're thinking of acute appendicitis that complains a right lower quadrant pain, when you do your palpation, you start away from right lower quadrant. No? Start with left lower quadrant, left upper quadrant, right upper quadrant, and lastly, the area of interest, the right lower quadrant. Okay? Laging last yung ipapalpate yung area of interest of the abdomen. Okay? So memorize nyo to. Common abdominal examination signs, no? Nasa book to, no? Aaron signs, Blumberg, the most common Cullen signs, Charcot signs, Gray-Turner, Fothergill for abdominal mass or abdominal wall hematomas, Murphy signs for acute cholecystitis, the Rovsing's, Tenhorns for acute appendicitis. Okay. Also the obturator sign for appendicitis or any pelvic pathologies. Most common non-surgical conditions. Complete blood count with differential count is very valuable because most patients with acute abdomen will have a leukocytosis or bandema. So always request for CBC and with differential counts. So of course, inflammatory conditions will always have an elevated WBC count. Next is we measure these serum electrolytes, blood urea nitrogen, and creatinine levels will assist us in evaluating factors such as vomiting or any third space losses. Serum amylase and lipase level determination may suggest pancreatitis that causes abdominal pain. But this is also elevated in some disorders like small bowel infarction and duodenal perforations. Next is the liver function test, total bilis, direct and indirect bilirubin levels, alkaline phosphatase, and serum aminotransferase. They are helpful in evaluating potential biliary tract causes of acute abdominal pain. So examples are the choledocholithiasis or gallstone, no? Cholelithiasis. Always request for liver function test. To pinpoint or to rule out some of the medical conditions, no? If the SGPT is elevated, maybe the problem is the liver. Baka naman may hepatitis yung patient, no? By doing the liver function test, we will know if especially for patients with jaundice, no? By doing the liver function test, we will know if the jaundice is due to pre-hepatic conditions, hepatic conditions, or post-hepatic conditions. Okay. Lactate levels and serum lactate levels and arterial blood gases determinations can be helpful in diagnosing intestinal ischemia or infarctions. So if you're suspecting intestinal infarction, you request for serum lactate level. So again, WBC count with diff count, no, for patients with inflammatory conditions or patients with intestinal obstruction may have an elevated WBC count. Next is urinalysis. We always request for urinalysis, especially in appendicitis, to rule out the most common differential diagnosis of acute appendicitis, which is the urinary tract infection. Also, urinalysis is very important if the patient is having dehydration. No? We could see there's an increase in the specific gravity of the urine. Okay. For beta HCG, we request this beta HCG for all women with of childbearing age, no, to rule out pregnancy or ectopic pregnancy. Okay. So this one, bilirubin, SGPT, these are the liver function tests I've already mentioned. After requesting for the laboratory studies, next is the imaging studies. Okay. The most common is the plain radiograph or X-ray. So for patients who have abdominal pain and we suspect there's an intra-abdominal air or pneumoperitoneum, we request for chest X-ray upright. No, this is more sensitive than the X-ray of abdomen on lateral decubitus because it can detect 1 ml of air in the peritoneal cavity. Compared to the lateral decubitus X-ray, in patients who cannot stand, it can detect 5 to 10 ml. So mas sensitive yung chest X-ray upright. 1 ml of air lang nadidetect na niya. However, may mga patients nga na hindi makaupo or who cannot tolerate standing position, nakahiga lang sa bed, lateral decubitus may do, no? But it can only detect if the air is from at least 5 to 10 ml. X-rays or plain radiograph can also detect calcifications. So 5% of the time it could detect appendiculate. 10% of the time X-ray can detect gallstone. But it can detect most of the renal stone, 90%. Okay. So in X-ray of the abdomen, upright and supine, it's very helpful in identifying gastric outlet obstruction or obstruction of the proximal, mid, or distal small bowel. By doing the X-ray of the abdomen, we will know the gas pattern of the bowel. No? So we will know if the patient's having a complete or partial bowel obstruction. It can also determine between bowel obstruction and ileus, no? So you could also request for abdominal X-ray if you want to know if the patient's having bowel obstruction or ileus. What can you see here? So this is a chest X-ray upright. What's this? So this is the pneumoperitoneum. There's a free air on the right hemidiaphragm. No? So this is the pneumoperitoneum. Not this one. Okay. This is the gastric bubble. This is normal findings. No? Air in the stomach. This is the pneumoperitoneum. Okay. So we always request for chest X-ray upright if we suspect there's a perforation in the hollow organ, like the stomach, duodenum, jejunum, ileum, colon, no? Ascending colon, transverse, any portion of the GIT. Okay. If we suspect that there's a perforation, we request for chest X-ray upright. Sabi nga natin kanina, it could detect as small as 1 ml of free air. Okay. And for upright abdominal X-ray, we request upright abdominal X-ray if we suspect there is a bowel obstruction, upright and supine. So what can you see here? You can see here the apex of the bowel on the right upper quadrant. dilated bowel. So this is large bowel, no, colon. Bakit? Diagnosis first. This is sigmoid volvulus, no? Hindi lang masyadong kita. As you can see here, this is the bent inner tube, no? This is colon, no? What's the difference of colon, large bowel from small intestine in X-ray? Anyone? You can see here the haustrations, no, of the large bowel. This is the haustration. Small bowel does not have this, no. May semicircular sila. So next imaging studies for patients with abdominal pain is abdominal ultrasound. It is extremely accurate for detecting gallstone, no? And it can assess the gallbladder thickness, presence of fluid around the gallbladder. It can also determine the diameter of the extrahepatic and intrahepatic bile ducts. And sometimes it can detect common bile duct stones. Transabdominal and transvaginal ultrasound sonography, detections of abnormalities of the liver and adnexa and the uterus for women. And it can also detect intraperitoneal fluid. Ultrasounds are more difficult for most surgeons to interpret than plain radiograph. Kasi ultrasound is a real-time imaging. And so here, what can you see here? This is ultrasound of the gallbladder. Patients complains of right upper quadrant pain. So you request for HBT ultrasound, hepatobiliary 3 ultrasound, or ultrasound of the upper hemi-abdomen. Or you could also request for whole abdominal ultrasound. No? So you could see here a gallstone. There's 2 gallstone here inside the gallbladder. So the difference between stone and polyp is, in stone, there is a acoustic shadowing. This is the acoustic shadowing. Gallbladder polyp does not have a acoustic shadow, no? So yun yung difference. So during sonography, pinapatagilid yung patient. Sino ba sa inyong na-ultrasound na for gallbladder? So usually the sonologist will let the patient turn on the left side. Kung nag-change ba yung position nitong stone, kung nag-change yung position nito, ibig sabihin stone siya. Gallbladder polyp does not change in position, no? Maski patagilirin niya yung patient, no? So yun yung isa pang difference of gallstone from gallbladder polyp. Next is computed tomography scan. Improvement in imaging techniques, especially multi-detector CT scan, have revolutionized the diagnosis of acute abdomen. It is widely available na, okay? And it is less likely to be hindered by abdominal air. So a number of studies have demonstrated the accuracy and usefulness of CT scan of the abdomen and pelvis in evaluation of patients with acute abdominal pain. So a CT scan can be performed using oral, rectal, or IV contrast. It is very accurate in evaluating abdominal pain, especially appendicitis. So we usually request for CT scan patients with acute abdomen, no? And for patients with equivocal findings of acute appendicitis. Mamaya i-discuss natin. Okay? So CT scan is very excellent for determining mechanical small bowel obstruction from paralytic ileus. It can usually identify the transition point in the mechanical obstruction. Specific yung CT scan, kung saan yung area or yung point of obstruction at the level of gastrointestinal tract. Unlike the X-ray, yes, it can detect bowel obstruction. It can say a complete bowel obstruction or partial bowel obstruction, but it cannot exactly pinpoint the level of obstruction, kung saan ba yung obstruction. Compared to CT scan, mas specific yung CT scan. Pwede niyang sabihin at around ileum siya or jejunum yung obstruction, no? Complete small bowel obstruction. And CT scan can also detect some of the diagnostic dilemmas, including acute intestinal ischemias and bowel injuries following blunt abdominal traumas. No? Saka mas mabilis din gawin yung CT scan, no? Minutes lang or seconds. It depends on the cuts of CT scan. What can you see here? This is a intestinal small bowel obstruction, no? Specifically, no? These are the small bowels. As you can see, dilated sila lahat. More than 3 centimeter. If more than 3 centimeters ang dilatation of the small bowel, no, ibig sabihin there's an obstruction. Okay? Anong bowel kaya ito? This is, by the way, this is a cross-sectional CT scan, the cut, no? Anong level ng small bowel?
Small bowel po, Doc.
Mga ano ba yung small bowel, di ba? Duodenum, jejunum, ileum. What do you think? Mukhang ileum, no? Mukhang ileum to, okay? Paano natin masabing ileum? Doc, kasi medyo anong level ba ito ng spine? I think this is T10, T12, or L. Well, this is the kidney, left kidney. Kung may fat stranding around that kidney, ibig sabihin, inflame yung kidney. Baka may pyelonephritis. So in this patient, this is the pancreas. There's fat stranding around here. Ibig sabihin, inflame yung pancreas. May pancreatitis siya. Okay? As well as mayroon din yung patient, cholecystitis. This is the gallbladder. Ano to? Kita nyo to? Yung maitim around the gallbladder. So this is the pericholecystic fluid. So, ang scan kasi, CT scan is like, ano yan eh, may ionizing radiation siya like the X-ray. Para siyang X-ray na maraming cuts. No? Na pre-process ng computer, ng CT scan, no? So, para siyang 100 times or more na X-ray. Okay? So next is diagnostic laparoscopy. A number of studies have confirmed the usefulness of diagnostic laparoscopy in patients with acute abdominal pain. With the advantage includes a high sensitivity and specificity, the ability to treat a number of conditions causing an acute abdomen laparoscopically, and the advantage of it is, aside from it can treat it right there and then, there is a decrease in morbidity and mortality, and there's a shorter stay in the hospital and lesser ang overall hospital cost. No? So for equivocal abdomens, we could also request for diagnostic laparoscopy. The disadvantage from the other imaging is, di ba sabi nga natin, laparoscopy is both diagnostic and therapeutic. The difference lang is the patient, you will do this diagnostic laparoscopy at the operating room. So the patient will be subjected to general anesthesia. Okay? So yun lang. So this is how we do the diagnostic laparoscopy. A rigid scope is inserted through the umbilicus and it's attached to the camera head. Then this is attached to the monitor. So we insufflate the abdomen, then we will see the inside of different organs inside. No, so you will see if there's an appendicitis, gallstone, or cholecystitis. If the patient has hernia, no, so many conditions. Pag nakita natin yun, pwede mo nang tanggalin. So kaya nga therapeutic din yung diagnostic laparoscopy. Okay. Any question? For history, PE, labs, and imaging?
None so far po, Doc.
Okay. So let's proceed. One of the most common acute abdomen is perforated peptic ulcer. The three most common complications of peptic ulcer disease in decreasing order of frequency are bleeding, perforation, and obstruction. So perforated peptic ulcer usually presents as an acute abdomen. The patient can often give the exact time of onset of the excoriating abdominal pain. Initially, a chemical peritonitis develops from the gastric or duodenal secretion, but within hours, a bacterial peritonitis supervenes. So the patient is in obvious distress. Sometimes perforation has sealed spontaneously by the time of presentation and surgery can be avoided. If the patient is stable and the patient is doing well, no? A non-operative management is appropriate only if there's an objective findings of a complete the perforation is completely sealed by doing a radiology contrast study. Okay? So sometimes perforated peptic ulcer, no, sinisealed off siya, no, ng abdominal policeman. Naalala nyo ba yung abdominal policeman during your anatomy? So yon. So again, perforated peptic ulcer will present with pneumoperitoneum. So we request for, anong request natin ulit? For pneumoperitoneum, chest x-ray upright. Okay? Hindi abdominal x-ray, ha? Kasi ang tinitingnan natin yung right hemidiaphragm. Okay? So, the options, surgical treatment for perforated duodenal ulcers are simple patch closure with highly selective vagotomy, or patch closure with truncal vagotomy and drainage. So, simple patch closure currently is the most common performed operation for perforated peptic ulcer. This is the procedure of choice in patients who are hemodynamically unstable, or in patients with exudative peritonitis signifying a perforation of more than 24 hours. In stable patients without long-standing perforation, we could do a patch closure with highly selective vagotomy. Okay. In stable patient without multiple operative risk factor, a perforated gastric ulcer are best treated with distal gastrectomy, resection, vagotomy, and usually for patients with type 2 and type 3 or acid secreting peptic ulcer, we do a truncal vagotomy and drainage. So, kahit ito na lang maintindihan nyo, I wait. So, this one. So, the surgical procedure of choice, it depends on the stability of the patient, the overall global status of the patient. If the patient is unstable, if the patient is unstable for duodenal ulcer, we just do patching and give the patient. Can you see this?
Yes po, Doc.
For duodenal perforation, unstable patient, elderly patient, just do patch, Graham patching, and give the patient proton pump inhibitor, PPI. Remember, in perforated peptic ulcer, you have two problems, no? The perforation and the acid secretion of the antrum. So you have to address the first problem, you patch the perforation, and the acid secretion, you just give proton pump inhibitor for unstable patient. But for gastric, same with gastric ulcer, no? Gastric perforation, you do biopsy of the ulcer edge, then you patch it. So same lang with the duodenum. Wedge resection, then patch it with the abdominal policeman, no? Diba? Yung omentum. So you close this and plug it with omentum. Same with the duodenal perforation. And give also proton pump inhibitor. Dito rin. For unstable patient. PPI. To control the acid secretion. But for patients who are stable, no? On chronic NSAID user, ibig sabihin acid producing peptic ulcer, no? Pag duodenal perforation, you do patch. The patient is stable, ha? For duodenum, you do patch and highly selective vagotomy. What is highly selective vagotomy? Can you see this? Remember your anatomy? This is your vagus nerve that innervates the pylorus, trunk of the vagus nerve. This is the nerve bladder jet, crow's feet, no? You do patch, no, in duodenal or gastric. Do the highly selective vagotomy, no? You patch it, then you transect this. This is the high selective vagotomy. Highly selective vagotomy. So you address the acid secretion of the stomach, but the pylorus still innervated, no? Intact pa rin yung vagus nerve. The function of the vagus nerve, no? It relaxes the pylorus para yung food in the stomach can go to the duodenum. The options of truncal vagotomy, nakikita niyo yung option? Patch, you patch it, or you do the truncal vagotomy. yung truncal vagotomy laging may drainage procedure. No? So what is truncal vagotomy? You transect the vagus nerve. This is easier to do, faster than doing the highly selective vagotomy. But the problem is yung innervation naman ng pylorus, no? So magko-close ng pylorus. Na-control mo nga yung acid secretion but the pylorus hindi na siya magre-relax. So what we do the drainage procedure. What is the drainage procedure? Gastrojejunectomy. So duodenum, this is the jejunum part, no? We do drainage procedure here. So naka-anastomose na siya dyan so that the food in the stomach will go directly to the jejunum. For all patients who underwent truncal vagotomy. Question? Nakuha nyo?
Yes po, Doc.
Po, Doc.
At least yan man lang ang makuha nyo sa peptic ulcer, no? Ito, memorize nyo lang yan. Okay? At least matandaan nyo kung ano ba yung patch, PPI, patch with highly selective vagotomy, or patch with truncal vagotomy and drainage. For gastric ulcer, you always do the biopsy, ha? To rule out this one, to rule out malignancy. Doc, bakit hindi nagbabiopsy sa duodenal ulcer, sa gastric ulcer lang?
At Doc, kasi po wala pong peritoneal covering sa duodenum.
Walang
Duodenum.
peritoneal ang duodenum?
I mean, mas manipis po yung niya, covering compared sa gastric.
Remember, the duodenum has two parts. Naalala nyo anatomy nyo. Half of your duodenum is in the retroperitoneal side. And half of your duodenum, second half, is in the peritoneal portion of the abdomen. Hindi siya nagbabiopsy because of yung risk na magkaroon ng stricture. May perforation ka na. Remember, ang duodenum mo mas maliit compared to the stomach. Pag binayopsy mo pa yung duodenum, magkakaroon ka na ng stricture. This is your stomach. This is your duodenum. Pag may perforation ka kasi, pag binayopsy mo, lalaki pa yung butas. So may perforation sa duodenum, pag pinalaki mo pa yung butas, almost half na ng diameter yung makukuha mo. So when you repair this, ikipot na siya. Nakuha niya? Okay? So, question?
Doc, question lang po.
Yes.
Doc, kailan po ginagamit po yung parang ano po yung, can you explain po yung sa oversue with the vagotomy and drainage sa duodenal po?
You oversue, sinusuture lang yon. Saan ba yun? Okay. Anyway, ang ibig sabihin lang nun, patching din yon. You repair it. You suture the perforation in the duodenum. For example, this is the perforation. Wow. Suture mo lang to. Nawala na. Suture it and patch it with your omentum. Yun yung oversue. You do Mikulicz, no? Like this. If you have perforation here, no, in the duodenum, you do Mikulicz repair or oversue, no? Ay, wait. Sorry, wala kasi akong kwan, pero ibig sabihin ng Mikulicz, Mikulicz repair, ibig sabihin long transverse. You repair it like this. Pa-horizontal to the lumen. Pag ganito. Oversu. Susuturin mo lang to. Para hindi mag-narrow yung duodenum. Pag na-repair mo na siya, pag ganito na itsura niya. Kuha nyo?
Yes po, Doc.
Ang pag-suture pag ganito. Ayaw. My God. Anyway, ganyan. Pag ganyan yung suturing yan. Para hindi mag-stricture yung duodenum. Okay? Pag ganyan.
Okay po, Doc. Thank you po.
Then you put the omentum here, okay? Pagka oversew mo, you put omentum. You patch it with omentum. Same with perforation in the stomach. So yun yung oversew. You close it, then put an omentum. Okay. Let's proceed with small bowel perforation. Prior to 1980s, duodenal perforation due to peptic ulcer disease was the most common form of small bowel perforation. Today, this is surgical. You have to repair. Type 3 and type 4 is also surgical. The most common is type 2, retroperitoneal. You could manage this non-operatively. And it is the most common. CT scan is the most sensitive test in diagnosing duodenal perforation. Positive findings include, again, sabi nga natin, hollow viscous perforation will present pneumoperitoneum. No? Retroperitoneal air or contrast extravasation and paraduodenal fluid collection. So if all patients undergoing therapeutic ERCP are imaged with CT scan following the procedure, up to 30% will have an evidence of air in the retroperitoneum. But the majority of them are asymptomatic. So the type 2 Stafford classification, majority does not require any specific therapy. You could send the patient home and just give broad spectrum antibiotic. True cases of retroperitoneal perforation of the duodenum can be managed non-operatively in the absence of progression of sepsis. If the patient is stable, no, walang nararamdaman, no fever, you could send the patient home. However, intraperitoneal duodenal perforation requires surgical repair. So we do the pyloric exclusion, or we could do also the gastrojejunostomy or tube duodenostomy. Iatrogenic small bowel perforation incurred during endoscopy, if immediately recognized, pwede rin i-repair yun using the endoscopic techniques. So may mga advanced gastroenterologists, gastro people, no, can repair yung mga injuries during ERCP. They could clip the mucosa using Liga clips or the alligator jaws. Pwede nilang gawin yon. So remember, sabi nga natin, naalala nyo anatomy nyo, first portion of half of your duodenum is in the retroperitoneal side, half of your duodenum is in the peritoneal side. So during ERCP, kung ang perforation is in the retroperitoneal, ang option natin is non-operative as long as the patient is stable. Pero kung ang perforation is in the peritoneal portion of the abdomen, ibig sabihin may free area, no? May pneumoperitoneum. We have no choice but to repair it surgically. So 3 options: pyloric exclusion, gastrojejunostomy, or tube duodenostomy. Okay? Ito ibang usapan in the perforation of the jejunum and ileum. Kasi we all know jejunum and ileum is in the peritoneal side. Lahat yan nandito sa intra-abdomen. Wala yan sa retroperitoneum, no? So perforation in jejunum ileum will cause an overt symptoms and signs such as abdominal pain, tenderness, distension, accompanied by fever and tachycardia. In plain radiograph, mali ito. Plain chest X-ray radiograph, chest X-ray upright dapat, no? Will reveal pneumoperitoneum. No, it's not abdominal radiograph. Okay. CT scan, if perforation is suspected but not clinically obvious, you could do the CT scan. No, jejunal and ileal perforations require surgical repair or segmental resection. So always, if the diagnosis is perforation of the jejunum and ileum, always you have to do the repair. Repair is jejunography or ileography. Kung multiple naman yung perforation, it's better to do a segmental resection. For example, this is your ileum or jejunum. Kung may perforation, we repair it horizontally, Mikulicz din, para hindi siya kumipot. No? Pero kung multiple perforation in one segment, it's better to do a segmental resection. You resect that segment na maraming perforation, then anastomose the proximal and the distal portion. Resect the segment, anastomose these two here. Okay? So that's the surgical option. The only option in patients with perforated jejunum and ileum. Okay? Any question in bowel perforation?
None so far po, Doc.
So yan. Yan lang tandaan nyo. The difference between jejunum, ileum, and duodenal perforation. So let's proceed now to appendicitis. Acute appendicitis, one of the most common acute surgical abdomen, no? With an incidence of 8.6% in men and 6.7% in women, with highest incidence at the second and third decade of life, so mga 10 years old to 30 years old. The etiology of appendicitis is due to luminal obstruction that occurs as a result of lymphoid hyperplasia in pediatric population. So in adult, the most common cause of appendicitis is fecal lit, whether in fibrosis, foreign bodies like food, parasites, and calculi, or neoplasia. Sometimes may mga kamag-anak tayo, kaibigan, Dok, totoo ba yun pag kumain ka, tumalon-talon ka, magkakaroon ng appendicitis? Possible pa rin, no? Pero ang most common is fecal lit, no? Pero bihirang-bihira talaga yung food particles na nakikita sa appendix during appendectomy. When we dissect the appendix, look for the cause of the obstruction, usually fecal lit talaga. Wala pa akong nakitang food talaga sa buong practice ko. So, pathophysiology of acute appendicitis. So, usually the obstruction in the lumen of the appendix leads to an increased intraluminal pressure. Then there will be impaired venous drainage, then mucosal ischemia leading to bacterial translocation and subsequent gangrene and intraperitoneal infection and perforation of the appendix. E. coli and Bacteroides are the most common aerobic and anaerobic bacteria isolated in perforated appendicitis. So, stages of appendicitis pala, 4, congestive appendicitis, suppurative appendicitis. Next is gangrenous appendicitis and perforated appendicitis. So the stages, it depends on the course of pathophysiology. So if there's an obstruction and inflammation of the appendix, there will be increase in the intraluminal pressure. Hanggang dito, ito yung congestive phase or stage ng appendicitis. If there's a suppurative material, the range in venous drainage, next magiging suppurative na yung appendicitis. If the serosa of the appendix is involved and there will be a mucosal ischemia and bacterial translocation, yun na yung gangrenous appendicitis. So after the gangrenous phase, perforation na. So tandaan nyo yun yung 4 stages of appendicitis: congestive, suppurative, gangrenous, and perforated appendicitis. So clinical diagnosis of appendicitis is same with other cases of acute abdomen, which starts with history and physical examination. By the way, acute appendicitis is a clinical diagnosis. Pwede tayong diagnose ng acute appendicitis clinically. Ibig sabihin, by just doing the history and the physical examination alone, we could diagnose appendicitis already. Okay? So, it is important to elicit the accurate history of the patient or the family in cases of pediatric patient. Inflammation of the visceral peritoneum usually progresses to parietal peritoneum, presenting the migratory pain, which is a classic sign of appendicitis. So, na-discuss natin kanina yung different kinds of abdominal pain. True to all inflammatory pathologies, laging it starts with vague abdominal pain or yung visceral pain. Pag yung organ like the appendix, nag-inflame, nag-stretch yung wall niya, the nerve fibers, diba sabi natin mag-stretch, it will produce visceral pain, which is yung vague abdominal pain. So yun ang start ng appendicitis. So once the peritoneum is already involved, there is a gangrenous of the serosa of the appendix, yun magkakaroon na yung patient the patient will perceive now a parietal pain, a well-localized pain. Kaya nga, ang classic history of appendicitis is localizing pain or migratory pain. Usually, patient will say, "Doc, masakit dito sa may pusod ko eh." Pero hindi niya ma-pinpoint talaga kung saan. After 6 to 12 hours or next day, the patient can already pinpoint on the right lower quadrant. Tas, "Doc, nandito na sa baba yung sakit ngayon." So, Kita nyo to? This is the umbilicus. This is the ascis. Anterior iliac spine. Where's the McBurney's point? This is the McBurney's point. 1/3 from ascis to the umbilicus. Okay? This is constant. Anong importance ng McBurney's point? So this is your McBurney's point, 1/3, no? Because the base of the appendix is constant in location, always here in the McBurney's point. Yung different signs, yun yung we could determine the location of the tip of the appendix or saan papunta yung appendix. Sabi nga natin kanina, Robsing sign, ibig sabihin the position of the appendix is in normal position. Pag ganito yung appendix. Okay? Ito yung cecum ha. Large colon pag ganito to. Nandito yung appendix natin sa may cecum. So next is Dunphy's sign. There's a pain with coughing. So pag pinaubo mo yung patient, sumasakit sa right lower quadrant, ibig sabihin yung appendix is in the retrocecal position. Nasa likod. No, that's the Idiopsoas sign. Pag positive, ibig sabihin the appendix is retrocecally located. Okay, like the Dunphy's sign. Nakuha nyo? Question?
None po, Doc.
Okay. So, as I've said kanina, appendicitis is clinical diagnosis, no? Maski wala ng imaging technique. As long as yung history and physical examination nyo is congruent with acute appendicitis. Patient with acute appendicitis usually have a leukocytosis of more than 10,000 counts, no? The higher the leukocytosis, the more associated appendicitis is gangrenous or perforated. So usually if your patient's having a 17,000 WBC count or more, it signifies gangrenous or complicated appendicitis, gangrenous or perforated appendicitis. Appendicitis nga pala can classify into uncomplicated and complicated appendicitis. Yung uncomplicated, yun yung congestive stage and suppurative stage. Complicated appendicitis are the gangrenous and the perforated. So you could also request for C-reactive proteins, bilirubins and interleukin, and procalcitonin. These are inflammatory laboratory tests to confirm there's an inflammatory process in the patient. We also request for pregnancy tests to rule out pregnancy in women patients with right lower quadrant pain, rule out ectopic pregnancies, and we also request for urinalysis to rule out use of CT scan reduces the rate of negative laparotomies. So accepted dyan kasi yung negative laparotomy, ibig sabihin, sabi nga natin kanina, clinical ang acute appendicitis, no? So 10% of negative laparotomies is acceptable. Ibig sabihin, inopera mo yung patient pero normal yung appendix, no, in 10% of the time, that's acceptable. Mas maganda nang naoperahan na normal kaysa na-miss natin yung appendicitis na hindi natin naoperahan. Yun lang ang ibig sabihin nun. Okay? So, CT scan, contrast-enhanced CT scan has a sensitivity of 96.96. Just like in CT scan, if the diameter is more than 6 millimeter and there's pain during the compression and there's also an appendiculate at the base of the appendix, ibig sabihin positive for appendicitis siya. And if there's also a periappendiceal fluid or fat stranding. Okay? Ultrasound is requested for pediatric patients or women who are pregnant kasi walang radiation yung ultrasound. Same with MRI, it has a sensitivity of 0.95. However, very expensive to just to rule out or rule in appendicitis. Wala siyang ionizing radiation, so pwede rin siya for pediatric and pregnant women. Okay? So, for equivocal findings lang. Equivocal abdomen. Sabi nga natin, clinical ang appendicitis, di ba? History, PE, and few mga laboratories, you could diagnose appendicitis. Hindi kailangan laging may ultrasound or CT scan. Question? Differential diagnosis, acute appendicitis, acute mesenteric adenitis. And torsion of the ovarian cyst or Graafian follicles. And also acute gastroenteritis is one of the differential diagnoses. Patients with abdominal pain presents with LBM. So pwedeng differential is gastroenteritis. Mittelsmers, which is the mid-cycle pain in the women, and ectopic pregnancies. Management of acute appendicitis. For uncomplicated appendicitis, the preferred approach is appendectomy. Laging appendectomy, no? But there are several recent randomized trial and cohort studies have examined the role of non-operative management. Uh, Meta-analysis of those data showed that they found out that 26.5% of the patient in non-operative group eventually will require an appendectomy within 1 year after the non-operative management. Excuse me. And the rate of adverse events following antibiotic therapy was higher than those patients who underwent straightforward appendectomy. So, pag sa exam, uncomplicated appendicitis, ang answer is appendectomy, or kung may option na non-operative, pwede rin siya. Okay? The timing of surgery is emergent surgery or urgent surgery. If you see patient on the ER, you could bring your patient directly to the operating room. But there are studies na pwede rin yung urgent surgeries, mas better yung outcome ng patient. Ibig sabihin, there's a waiting of less than 12 hours. In urgent surgery, you could admit first your patient, resuscitate your patient in the room, prepare your patient, then bring your patient to the operating room for appendectomy. So, pwede yun. Mas better daw yun kaysa sa emergent surgery. For the approach, you could do open appendectomy or laparoscopic appendectomy. Okay? So, for complicated appendectomy, you always resuscitate first your patient and give IV antibiotic and do the appendectomy. No? There's also the non-operative option for complicated appendicitis. Sometimes kasi may mga perforated or ruptured or gangrenous appendicitis. After some time, nawawala yung abdominal pain kasi nagkakaroon na ng phlegmon formation. What is phlegmon formation? Naalala nyo uli, si abdominal policeman. So, function ng omentum is to shield off any infection or perforation inside the abdomen. So, pag may inflammatory process yung appendix, sometimes wini-wall off siya ni omentum. Complicated appendicitis. So, kaya nagkakaroon ng option na yung non-operative management. Same with uncomplicated appendicitis. Some of the patient in non-operative group eventually will undergo appendectomy within 1 year. And mas malala na yung appendicitis niya. Okay? In a non-operative group. So, for patients who will undergo operative intervention, we always prepare the patient prior to operation. No? We resuscitate our patient first, and then we give IV antibiotics. So, antibiotic of choice, cefoxitin, or second generation cephalosporin, or broad-spectrum ampicillin sulbactam. Could also give cefazolin plus metronidazole. Operative techniques for open appendectomy, we could do the McBurney's incision, Rockley-Davis incision, or the midline laparotomy. McBurney's incision is a right lower quadrant incision, just like the Rockley-Davis incision. McBurney's incision, ibig sabihin, incision through the McBurney's point. Saan nga uli yung McBurney's point? 1/3 from the axis to the umbilicus. So this is the McBurney's incision. It is an oblique incision. Okay? Rockley-Davis incision is a horizontal incision through the McBurney's point. This is right lower quadrant incision siya. Maliit lang, no? This is the Rockley-Davis incision. But for complicated appendicitis, ruptured appendicitis, or there's a right and left lower quadrant pain, you do the midline laparotomy. Midline infraumbilical incision. So the advantage of midline, no, you could inspect the right lower quadrant and the left lower quadrant area. Kasi kung may mga abscess na dito, no, it's better to do a midline para ma-wash nyo yung abscess dito. Unlike in the McBurney's and Rockley-Davis incision, hindi natin maabot yung left lower quadrant, no, yung abscess, hindi natin malilinis. So it's better to do a midline incision, midline laparotomy. Other novel techniques. Next is laparoscopic appendectomy. So the laparoscopic appendectomy is we insert a rigid scope in the umbilicus, and we put two working port here, 5 mm incision here and 5 mm incision here. Then we get the appendix here and delivered it through the umbilicus. So this is the laparoscopic appendectomy. Novel techniques, the single incision appendectomy, just like the laparoscopic appendectomy, we put these two small incision, 5 mm incision, also beside the scope, no? Nasa umbilicus din yung incision. So this is your working port here and working port here. Katabi lang siya ng scope. So you have only one incision. That's the SILS, no? Single incision laparoscopy. Then, ito hindi masyadong naging sikat yung notes. Natural orifice, transluminal endoscopy surgery. For women, ginawa nila ito pero mga less than 10 pa lang nagagawa. Hindi masyado true vagina, no? Transvagina for women. They do the appendectomy. For men, transrectum naman, transrectal appendectomy. So hindi siya masyadong naging sikat. Okay? So another is the robotic appendectomy, very expensive one. They use Da Vinci robot, just like laparoscopy. The scope and the working ports, no, are attached to robots. So the surgeon is operating away from the patient remotely. Medyo mahal lang yung robot, yung Da Vinci robot, no? Halos same lang naman siya ng laparoscopy. And konti lang. We have only 3 robots in the Philippines, by the way. Kaya hindi pa siya accessible sa lahat. I think 1 million per use or 600,000. Hindi pa kasama yung ibang gamit. Okay? MedCity, PGH, and St. Luke's pa lang ang may robot. Da Vinci robot. Okay? Any questions? Approach? Different techniques? So last topic, colonic diverticulitis. Definition, diverticula is an outpouching in the wall of our digestive system, most commonly seen in the colon. Diverticular disease is a clinical term used to describe the presence of symptomatic diverticula. Diverticulosis refers to presence of diverticula with inflammation. Diverticulosis refers to the presence of diverticula without inflammation. Diverticulitis, yun yung may infection. Diverticula associated with infection. Majority of the colonic diverticula are false diverticula, in which the mucosa and the muscularis mucosa have herniated through the colonic wall. Usually, it occurs between the taenia coli and points where the nutrient blood arterial vessels penetrate the colonic wall, creating an area of relative weakness. So it is also referred as Paulson diverticula. True diverticula, which is comprised all the layer of the small bowel. All layer of the bowel wall. They are rare and usually are congenital. So example of true diverticula is the Meckel's diverticula. No, it comprises all the layer of the bowel. Okay. So diverticulosis is extremely common in the United States and Europe, and it is estimated that half of the population older than 50 years of age has a colonic diverticula. So sigmoid colon is the most common site of diverticulosis. Diverticulosis is an acquired disorder, but the etiology is poorly understood. So the most accepted theory is the lack in the dietary fiber results in smaller stool volume requiring high intraluminal pressure and high colonic wall tension for propulsion. Kaya nga ang false diverticula is called a pulsion diverticula. Kailangan i-rim mo yung small stool volume, so nagkakaroon ng high pressure sa colon, kaya nagkakaroon ng diverticula. So, lack of dietary fiber. Inflammatory complication of diverticula is diverticulitis. No? So, refers to the infection associated with diverticulum, which is estimated that it occurs in 10 to 25% of people with diverticulum. So, the spectrum of the diseases ranges from mild to uncomplicated diverticulitis that can be treated outpatient to free perforation and diffuse peritonitis that requires emergency laparotomy. Most patients present with left-sided abdominal pain with or without fever and leukocytosis. So diverticulitis, sigmoid diverticulitis, no, usually presents with left-sided abdominal pain, no. Ito yung sinasabi nilang left-sided appendicitis. Same with appendicitis, the history and the physical examination. Inflammatory in nature din siya, same with appendicitis, no? So it starts with vague abdominal pain, no? Yung visceral pain to parietal pain, no? And the physical examination is same with appendicitis. The point of tenderness lang is in the left lower quadrant, no? So almost the same with appendicitis. The patient also presents with fever and leukocytosis. So elevated din ang WBC count. So for the imaging for diverticulitis, we could request for plain radiograph if we want to know if there is a perforation of the diverticulitis. There will be a free air in the abdomen, the pneumoperitoneum. We could also request for CT scan. So CT scan is the most useful, no, imaging studies for diverticulitis. It can define a pericolic inflammation, if there's a phlegmon formation or abscess formation. Okay. Contrast enemas, no, or endoscopy are contraindicated. Hindi siya pwedeng gawin yung endoscopy during an acute setting. Pag may abdominal pain, you cannot request for colonoscopy, no? Baka mag-perforate kasi. So differential diagnosis includes malignancy, ischemic colitis, infectious colitis, or inflammatory diseases like the Crohn's disease. Uncomplicated diverticulitis is characterized by left lower quadrant pain and tenderness with CT scan findings of pericolic soft tissue stranding or colonic wall thickening and or with phlegmon. So most patients with uncomplicated diverticulitis will respond to outpatient therapy with broad spectrum antibiotic, oral antibiotic, and you give low residue diet. In 10 to 20% of patients with uncomplicated diverticulitis will present with a severe pain, with tenderness, fever, and leukocytosis. They are treated in the hospital with parenteral antibiotic. So some of the patients will have fever, some cannot tolerate oral antibiotic, no? Nagvo-vomit sila. So in 10 to 20% of the patient. So you admit your patient, give IV antibiotic, and put the patient on bowel rest. So seswerohan yung patient and you give IV antibiotic, no? Most of the patient naman will improve within 48 to 72 hours. But if the patient does not improve after 72 hours, no, you may suspect that there's a abscess formation in the patient. So you request for CT scan to determine that if there's a pericolic abscess, and we could drain it percutaneously. So deterioration in patient's clinical condition and the development of peritonitis are indication for laparotomy. So kung there's an abscess formation, percutaneously accessible, you drain it, no? percutaneous drainage with CT scan guided. But if the patient is not improving, immediately bring your patient to the operating room for laparotomy. Okay. For complicated diverticulitis, includes diverticulitis with abscess and obstruction, diffuse peritonitis, or there's a free perforation, or if there's a fistula formation between the colon and adjacent structures, like colovesical fistula, means there's a connection between the colon and the bladder. Colovaginal fistula, there's connection between the colon and the vagina. Coloenteric fistula, there's connection between the colon and the abdominal wall. So in complicated diverticulitis, we have the Hinchey staging. So we have the Hinchey 1, 2, 3, and 4. So Hinchey 1 includes colonic inflammation with pericolic abscess. Hinchey 2 is with patient with retroperitoneal or pelvic abscess formation. Hinchey 3 with purulent peritonitis. Hinchey 4 with fecal peritonitis. So Hinchey is a CT scan findings. So we always request for CT scan for patient with diverticulitis. No? Complicated or uncomplicated. Ascending colon, kita nyo to, transverse colon, descending colon, and sigmoid. Sigmoid, di ba, most common area of diverticulitis. So for complicated diverticulitis, sigmoid diverticulitis, Hinchey 1, pericolic abscess. Kung yung abscess nandito lang, around the sigmoid. Hinchey 2, small abscess in the pelvic region, pelvic area. This is the small bowel, no? Hinchey 3 is purulent peritonitis. There is abscess in the small bowel areas. Hinchey 4, if there's fecal peritonitis. Ibig sabihin, mas malalaki yung perforation, feces na talagang lumalabas. So, alalahanin niyo yung Hinchey staging, no? Stage 1, 2, 3, 4. Hinchey 1, 2, 3, 4. The surgical options will depend on the Hinchey staging, no? Kaya kailangan alam niyo yan. So, the treatment depends on the patient's overall clinical conditions and the degree of peritoneal contamination and infection. An abscess of less than 2 centimeter, no, can be treated with IV antibiotics. Large abscess, you always do a drainage procedure. Kahit ano man yung abscess. So, basta abscess, nakakita kayo ng abscess. Anong treatment natin sa abscess? Anong abscess man yan? Sa skin man yan, sa mukha, sa liver, intra-abdominal abscess, ang sagot nyo lagi is drainage. Kung sa skin, incision and drainage. Kung intra-abdominal abscess, like here in this patient, this is a pelvic abscess. You percutaneously accessible, so through the gluteus, CT scan guided percutaneous, no? Tinusok, then you aspirate it. Percutaneous drainage of abscess. We could do also exploratory and drainage of abscess. Or you could do a laparoscopy, drainage of abscess. If liver, pwede naman percutaneous yung liver, i-drain yung abscess. So treatment for abscess basically is drainage. Hindi antibiotic, ha? We only give IV antibiotic or oral antibiotic if there's a concomitant infection. Just like in this case, may diverticulitis, lahat ng may itis, we give antibiotic. So, ito, may pelvic abscess secondary to diverticulitis. We drain the abscess and give antibiotic. For example, patients with abscess in the skin and with concomitant cellulitis, itis, that's the time you will give oral antibiotic. You drain the abscess, give oral antibiotic. Pero there are cases kasi na may abscess lang pero wala namang inflammation ng soft tissue, wala naman cellulitis. So the treatment is incision and drainage. Nakuha nyo? Abscess, drainage. Itis, antibiotic. Okay? So, simple lang naman. Question? So, ito sabi ko nga, you have to memorize the Hinchi staging 1, 2, 3, 4 kasi the surgical options will depend on the Hinchi staging. So, many of the patients will ultimately require resection, but percutaneous drainage may allow a one-stage elective procedure and may obviate the need for colectomy. So, emergent laparotomy may be required if an abscess is inaccessible to percutaneous drainage. If patient condition deteriorates or fails to improve, and if the patient presents with free intra-abdominal air or pneumoperitoneum, we explore the patient immediately. No? For Hinchi 1 and 2, we do colectomy with primary anastomosis. So, ibig sabihin, for example, Hinchi 1 and 2, ibig sabihin localized lang yung abscess, pericolic abscess, we do colectomy. So, sigmoid colectomy. Kunwari, ito yung sigmoid, maraming diverticulitis dito. With localized abscess formation, so we resect this. We resect the sigmoid and do primary anastomosis. Anastomose the rectum and the descending colon. Okay, nakuha nyo? That's for Hinchi 1 and 2. But for patients with larger abscess and peritoneal soiling or fecal soiling, we do sigmoid colectomy with end colostomy and Hartmann's pouch or Hartmann's procedure. For Hinchi 3 and 4, no, we resect the sigmoid, the segment of interest, kung saan yung diverticulitis. We exteriorize the descending colon. Kinocolostomy natin, end colostomy. Nakakita na kayo ng may colostomy? Hindi pa. So, nakalabas sa abdominal wall, may colostomy bag siya. So, dito muna siya sa abdomen magpupupo. No? So, end colostomy, and we close the rectum. So, this is the Hartmann's pouch or Hartmann's procedure. So, after sometimes 4 weeks, pag hindi na masyadong inflame yung colon, we take down this colon. We bring our patient back to the operating room and connect this colon to the rectum, no, to establish the continuity of the gastrointestinal tract. Kasi in Hinchi 3 and 4, usually the colon is inflamed. Magang-maga siya. You cannot anastomose it primarily. Maglilik lang siya. Okay? So, we do the Hartmann's procedure. We close the rectum and exteriorize the descending colon, the end proximal colon. So, other options, we could do also this one. Success has been reported after sigmoid colectomy, primary anastomosis and proximal diversion and loop ileostomy for Hinchi 3 and 4. Pag Hinchi 3 and 4, sabi nila, pwede rin daw. One option is to resect the sigmoid, anastomose the descending colon to the rectum even if it is inflamed. But you have to do a loop ileostomy. So, ganito yung loop. Imbis colostomy ang nakalabas, it's the ileum that is exteriorize. Nandito sa right lower quadrant yung ileostomy. Naka-ileostomy bag din to. So to protect your anastomosis, kasi inflamed pa siya, di ba? Prone to leakage, we exteriorize the ileum para yung food na kinain natin, na ng patient, lalabas dito sa ileum. So walang food or walang feces na pupunta dito sa anastomosis. Pwede rin yun. That's another option. So another option for a very unstable patient who cannot tolerate resection of the sigmoid, you could do a laparoscopic lavage and drainage. So laparoscopy, you drain all the abscess and put multiple drain or Jackson-Pratt drain. No. So that's another option. You drain all the abscess, then place a Jackson-Pratt drain. Okay? Any question? Madali lang to. Nasa libro naman siya. Okay? Question?
None po, Doc.
So I think this is my last slide. Acute abdomen remains a challenging part of surgeon's practice. A patient with acute abdomen is an emergency, and it is imperative to get the correct diagnosis. Although advances in the imaging technique, a careful history and physical examination remains the most important part of evaluation. Always. Kaya nga sa surgeon, it's mahirap sa amin during the pandemic to have our practice na mga online, no? Unlike the medicine, gano'n, merong online consult sila. Ang surgeon mahirap because we have to do the physical examination. We have to palpate the patient lagi for patients who have complained of abdominal pain, no? So mahirap sa surgeon. Kaya mas gusto namin is face-to-face consultation. Always perform the genital examination when lower abdominal pain is present in male or in female, in young and in adult. A severe pain should be taken as an indicator of serious diseases, and pain awakening the patient from sleep should always be considered significant. Okay? I think that's my last slide. Thank you very much. Any question?
None naman po, Doc.
Okay, sige. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Attendance lang ako.